Welcome to the Lifestyle Herbalist, the podcast where holistic wellness meets everyday living. I'm your host, Dabney, registered dental hygienist, clinical herbalist, and certified health coach. We are passionate about bridging the gap between conventional medicine and plant-powered healing. Whether we're diving into oral microbiome health, the power of adaptogens, or simple steps to vibrant living, our goal is to help you feel empowered with practical, science-backed, and earth-grown solutions. Let's get started. Hey, welcome back. I'm with you today to talk to you about all things disease. When I think about dis-ease, we think about dis-ease, something that isn't quite right, and it's making us feel not easy. Life just isn't easy right now. But today's episode is called Beyond the Absence of Disease. And we're going to start rethinking about what health really is according to the World Health Organization. So when you think of health, do you picture doctor visits and medicine? What if I told you health is so much more? So back in 1948, World Health Organization developed what they call health. And what health is, it's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. This definition was established in 1948, and it emphasizes the health is so much more than the lack of illness. And for some reason, we've kind of forgotten all these other things. This definition encompasses an overall well-being across the physical, the mental, and social dimensions. Many of us don't think about the social implications of wellness. So the key aspects of the WHO's definition is physical health is the proper functioning of the body and freedom from disease. The mental health is the emotional, psychological, and cognitive well-being. And social well-being is the ability to maintain healthy relationships and participate in the society. This perspective is a holistic approach, and it's been influenced by global health policies. It promotes preventive care, mental health awareness, and social determinants of health. So this definition is revolutionary, and it's a shift from disease-centric to holistic well-being. So let's break this down. The physical health, what does it mean? It's the body's function, its fitness, and its nutrition. So the body's function, what does it mean to have a body function? Well, all right, is it just physical movement? Not necessarily. How do you swallow? How do you empty your colon? How long in between when you eat, when you excrete those things that your body no longer needs? It's fitness. And not just looking at the BMI. I don't know that that's an accuracy for physical health. Because someone can be physically looking good, but maybe they're malnourished, and maybe they had a sedentary lifestyle. So looking at someone's physical well-being on the outside doesn't necessarily mean they're physically fit and physically healthy. So there's limitations in viewing health as only no disease. Someone who is constitutionally a bigger person, they have just more muscle mass. Perhaps their body's constitution is that, they come from a background of just really hard workers and they have big legs, big ankles, big arms, because physically they're just from a different type of constitution. It doesn't mean that they are unhealthy. So skinny and thin doesn't always mean healthy. And it's not a goal that we should all achieve. I think about being more strong. And when I work with women who are trying to physically become in better shape, I try to refocus their attention on being strong, not necessarily thin. Because as women get older, it's good to have a little bit more girth to us. It actually shows that we are actually healthier. Skinny women typically have more bone issues and more likely to have bone fractures. So, physical health, it's being strong and feeling good in your body, which we'll get to the mental health, which is next. So mental health is emotional resilience. It's stress management, and it's any kind of mental disorders. So there's a stigma that we still have, many of us have, around mental health. And why mental health is often neglected is because of this stigma. People are slow to say that they're taking any kind of an SSRI or something for anxiety or something to help them with their mental health. But our brain is an organ, just like our lungs, just like our heart, just like our liver and our kidneys. It is an organ. And sometimes things just aren't happening in the right formation there. And so we need a little help. Maybe it's a little help for a short period of time, but maybe it's something that we need more long term. But the idea of health is being able to mentally have emotional resilience. So when stress comes into life, and it always does, stress is actually a normal way of thinking. It's a normal thing of life. To say that somebody is stress-free, I think it's a stretch. Because our body feels stress, even with good things that we do. A walk, physical exercise, that actually stresses our body, but it stresses in a good way. Perhaps it's creating an event, and it's something that we really enjoy doing. But yet our body is going to sense the stress of those deadlines and getting things done. Is how does our body adapt? How do we become resilient in these moments? And it's when we don't have emotional resilience and we're unable to manage our stress, that's when mental disorders can really creep in. I listened to a podcast years ago, and I've read many books about mental disorders, mental anxiety. And oftentimes it leads back to anxiety is when one person doesn't feel adequate and that they are not pleasing the other people around them. I think, wow, how sad is that? Like our own emotional resilience is low and our anxiety levels are up because we are people pleasers. And we're trying to please everyone else around us. And in the event of all of that, we put ourselves on the back burner and then we become emotionally dysregulated. And that's oftentimes why people will then suddenly fly off the handle, get really aggressive because it builds and builds and builds because we're not managing our stress and we're not practicing emotional resilience. And it's important to get good, adequate sleep. Sleep is the number one way to build your body's way of being able to handle stress. If you think about staying up late, getting up early, our body hasn't had a chance to recuperate. It's not had a chance to rest and repair. And it doesn't allow our brain to be able to put those things in order that we need to put in order. When we're resting in that REM and our deep sleep, it helps build memory. It helps us build that resistance to stress that we're going to probably have the next day. So rest is the best way to build emotional resilience, stress management, and combat those mental irregularities. Our thoughts, we have millions of thoughts going through our brain each day. What is your brain telling you? What are your thoughts telling you? What are those little white lies? Or maybe they're not white lies. Maybe they're big lies that your brain is telling you about yourself. Take a moment and just think about that. And then how do you restructure, rewire? There are many things, many books, many podcasts, and just Sabrina and I have talked many times about mental health and clarity, and she has put up many podcasts for taking breaks and meditations that can help you become a better version of yourself. So, even though there is a stigma around mental health, I'm going to challenge you to put that aside and make sure that your mental health is where it needs to be and that it is health. There is no health without mental health. So, with that, when we had this pandemic back in 2020, there were a lot of folks who had mental health problems. And it was scary times. We were just unsure what was going on during that time. And there was this thing called social distancing that we all had to kind of stay away from one another. Social well-being is part of the WHO's definition of health. It's connection, it's community, and it's relationships as health factors. The impact of loneliness is huge, and studies have linked it to mortality. We are social creatures as humans. We are not meant to be alone. And policies like parental leave and urban design, these all affect social health. And thank goodness things are moving toward like longer time to spend with a newborn. Dads now get time to stay home with a newborn. That wasn't the case when I was bringing my kids on board into this world. Typically, women get 6 weeks here in America. In Europe, they get a full year because they understand more deeply the importance of that social well-being and the connection. Multiple studies have shown a correlation between loneliness and social isolation with a higher risk of premature death. The exact percentage increases varies across the studies, but it's consistently found to be a higher factor in overall mortality. Loneliness and social isolation are also linked with increase of cardiovascular diseases, including coronary heart disease and stroke. And studies have also shown increased mortality risk from specific conditions like breast cancer, cardiovascular disease among socially isolated individuals. While both are related to negative health outcomes, research suggests that social isolation may have a more profound effect on mortality than the subject of feeling loneliness. And some studies have equated mortality risk of loneliness of that of smoking 15 cigarettes a day or obesity. To me, that is simply amazing and reassures us that the importance of socialization is really important. So, how are you social? How do you connect with others around you? This is something certainly to think about. And National Geographic did a large study years ago on the blue zones. They were very interested in the centurions, these pockets of individuals, groups that lived to 100 plus years. One thing all of these groups had in common was their social connections. At 90, 95 years old or 100 years old, these folks were still very social among their friends. They would go out in the evenings with their friends. They had purpose in their life. And this social connection is what gave them, I think, vigor in their life. So, is complete well-being realistic? What can be the balance? So the reason this definition matters is because when we think of preventative health care, we need to focus on lifestyle, not just treatment. What does your life look like? Where are you in your physical health? Where are you in the mental health? Where are you in your social well-being? Mental health integration in primary care should be something that we talk more about. Not just, how are you feeling today? Oh, are you feeling a little sad? Here's a prescription for you. We've got to get down to the root. Why is it that you're feeling lonely? There have been global challenges. There's the state of countries. There is war. We have burnout in maybe our jobs, maybe for caring for others. We have inequality, and we have pandemic effects. So, in a holistic view, how do we apply this? For individuals, take a small step. Make sure that you're getting adequate sleep. 7 to 9 hours for some. And people who say that they can go on 4 hours of sleep, they're only going to go for a certain period of time because they're burning their ends. They're burning their candle at both ends. And eventually, they're going to get really burnt out and sick. Think about your social connections. How do you spend your day in mindfulness? Humming can reset your stressors, and it can reset your emotional well-being by just humming. Just a few little bars can just reset your stressor. In our communities, we need to advocate for healthier policies. We have parks that we can go to. There are mental health services, but we need to advocate for better food supply. The things that we're putting in our foods are not healthy for us, and it actually feeds into the disease process, not health processes. And for healthcare workers, patient-centered care, we need to listen beyond the symptoms. As a healthcare provider, a dental hygienist, I'm looking at more than just the person's gums or their hard tissue of their teeth. I'm looking at the whole person. We need to look at the patient-centered care and be more functional and holistic rather than just treating the symptoms. Health is multidimensional. So, what is one thing you can do today for your physical, mental, or your social health? I invite you to share your thoughts on social media or email me. Let me know what you're going to do today that's different. Grab a friend, go for a walk. Grab a friend and go for coffee. Whatever it is you need to do, take one small step, one actionable step today that will lead you to what the World Health Organization has determined what health is, which is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease. That one small step will lead to a huge result. I'm Dabney Vaccaro, and it's been great. Thank you for listening, and take care of yourself. Until next time.